Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to show you how to do a request that I got today for somebody who wanted to know how to set up a quest manager that would have a collector that would show up on screen that would tell you when you collected each of the individual specific items and how to connect those to a trigger. So let's get into the pieces and parts. Rather than build this along the way, I'm going to show you what I built after the fact. All right. So we have a number of assets that we're going to need for this. This is one way to implement it. If you had a more extensible system, obviously you want to set this up a little bit differently. I created an enumerator, which you can come into your project panel, go down to blueprint and say enumeration. When I created that enumerator, I just added a few entries into it. I had a sphere, a cube, and a cone. So this is just going to give us a way consistently inside of Unreal to talk about something without having to attach a physical string to something or remember what number is represented. And then I knew that I had my blueprint interface for my update system. And if you forget how to do that, you can come down to blueprints and do blueprint interface. And this gets you the ability to create a function without implementation that would allow for communication between different blueprints that may be doing different things with the same type of information. And so I just added a new function and called it update fetch. Then I went into a widget blueprint that would hold this information. I just created a canvas panel for the whole screen, a horizontal box for where I'm going to put my pieces, and then I added this type of item called a switcher. So this switcher, the widget switcher, will basically go with an index and show which of the subsequent items that live in it are meant to be placed there. So this is index 1, and this is index 0. And if I go to the switcher, you can see I have index 0, and I switched to index 1, and it'll show the correct one. So the switchers allow us to go back and forth between different states of things or to show a different collection. So here for the switcher, I just made sure that was set to a variable for each one of these things and I named them appropriately. And then for the items that I have, I just imported some stuff I made quick in Photoshop. A circle that's colorized and desaturated, a square, same thing, and a triangle, same thing. So with those set, I was able to go to my graph. And we want to make sure that when we get in here, we're going to go to our class settings and then modify the interfaces to add the BPI updates so that when we get to update fetch, we can right click on it and say implement interface. And that'll get us this node here. And then we want to make sure that as we're going in that we have that compiled. If you don't compile after an interface, that'll cause a problem. And I'm going to just have the update fetch item that I have here. This is going to use my enum. So when I set the enum up originally, that was just so I can communicate about this thing. And the way that the fetch HUD is going to work on this is that it is going to use a switch. So anytime you have any type of enum, if you type the switch command, you could pull out and it'll list an execution line for each one of the items that are inside of your switch. So if I came over here and I built another one, you can see that populates right over here. I go back, I trash that one, save it, and it goes away. So it's just a way to make a determination based off of some input, which output you want to run. And so for us, we're going to just say, get the switcher for this specific spot and activate, set the active widget index to 1. And then we're going to increment our count as that happens. And then when that count reaches 3, if that's true, we're just going to delay for a few seconds and remove that from the parent. This way we don't need to keep track of the widget. We can just have it manage itself because we're only actually updating this for the sake of the user. The tracking of this is still managed by the same quest system that we had before. Speaking of the quest system, we had our original quest trigger, and I made one update to this to allow us to extend without having to copy the entire class and have duplicates. I just added this one function. I called it initialize unique elements. And it doesn't have anything in it, but it allows us in the fetch trigger, which is a child of our quest trigger, to override that function. So when I come down here and I say override, any function that isn't already there, isn't already overridden, will show up here as an override option. And so I'm overriding that to say on this specific version of the quest trigger for the fetch trigger, we're going to generate the fetch HUD for the player controller, and we're going to add it to the screen. We're going to store this as a reference really quick here. And then we're going to get all actors of class that are of our collectible that we're going to make here in a second. And then we're going to run a loop through there and say, hey, by the way, the HUD that we just created is the one that you need to update whenever you get interacted with. So you can't have the get all actors of class of collectible until after you build that. So I guess maybe I should have built this here, done that, and then come to show you the updates on the collectible. So for the collectible, this was a child of the BPA collectible that we had made in a previous video. And in that we have our event graph. And so basically we have a magnetic range for pickup and a collection range for the pickup that allows it to kind of sweep towards the player. The collect behavior that we have here, this collection is the thing that's actually going to be fired off. So here we have collect, and once it's done collecting, it'll destroy the actor, because in our general quest manager, we're actually just checking for the thing that's being destroyed to iterate through the number of things that we have inside of the quest. So since we don't need that, I'm going to look back at the collectible specifically and our collect function that we're going to be using. We're just going to take the fetch reference, which was set for us by the trigger, right? The fetch HUD ref. That's being set by the trigger on begin play. Whenever the quest is initialized, it's going to go get all the objects and initialize them, so they can reach out and point at that, and then they can say, "Here's my fetch type," which is the only variable that we're going to need to set by the designer, and then that's going to run through the parent collect, which is really just going to destroy actor. Now, an important part of how I've set this up so it works in our editor is to use the construction script. If you have the setup where you have your own materials and meshes, you may not need to configure all of this. These are just using a predefined color so I can assign readable red, green, blue values to something. And then the static mesh, we're going to use the fetch type. If it is of this type, then it'll configure it in this way. And all that does is it allows me to get the fetch collectible and then say which type it is. So if I want it to be a cube or if I want it to be a cone, it'll get the right material and the right mesh. And so you can set up something similar, but you don't need to have that in the constructor script. You could just manually configure it where you, per instance, would add the item or select the mesh, expose that variable, and then choose the fetch type. So as that goes, this is all you need. Once you set that up, you need to have your quest trigger. Here, this is the fetch trigger. I have that set up, so that'll call whatever it is that it's necessary for the fetch. And then I have this objective manager. So this objective manager is going to look at the 3 fetch collectibles and then the target for the door. So this didn't need to be changed at all to interact with these systems. I just need to modify the quest to be able to add the item to the screen, and then modify these items so that they update the element on the screen. And once it's completed, that takes care of itself by deleting itself off the screen. So if I come over here, 1, 2, 3, I guess I never picked up the quest. Let's assume that I picked things up in the right order. So pick this up, 1, 2, 3, and then once that's done, in 3 seconds, it'll clear itself off the screen. Doors open, things are unlocked, quest has been notified to the user. So this is the basis of how you do it. Hopefully this is what you needed. If not, let me know. Otherwise, go out there and keep building.